Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane. I'm your host, Shane Fordham, with all the shameless sports takes. Got a very special episode for y'all today. I'm joined by a very special guest, someone who was once a student of the game, now giving back to the game that he loves, the game of football. I'm joined today by my guy, Carlos Bradley, former NFL player, current vice president and chairman of SAFR sports technology company. Los, how you doing?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. It's good to be with you. All good.
Yes,
good
sir.
stuff.
Yes, sir. It's always good when we get together, are able to talk some football, able to talk what's going on in the sports world. But I want to know, you have a very important update in regards to your sports technology company, SAFR Sports. Run me through real quick, like what's new with SAFR Sports?
Well, SAFR Sports is the future. SAFR Sports is the look of the future for football. As you know, we make a soft shell technology product. SAFR, which stands for Scientifically Advanced Force Reduction, SAFR, Scientifically Advanced Force Reduction. So we make a soft shell product like another product you've seen worn on the NFL players primarily in practice, okay? In the last few weeks, last week, we were at the Senior Bowl where a number of players, Tulane, South Carolina, Temple, NC State, Virginia Tech, these schools currently wear and utilize our product in games and in practice. So we're trying to get more exposure. So some other players, primarily Oklahoma State players, they were wearing our product, really liked it. What we're looking for is more exposure. So this coming weekend, Super Bowl weekend, Lee Steinberg, the famous first super agent, saw our product a couple months ago and really liked our product. Seminar at the Super Bowl. So this Saturday coming, Super Bowl Saturday, we will be at the Lee Steinberg Super Bowl party presenting our SAFR Sports helmet cover there, front and center. Yes.
Nice. Are y'all going to be going to the game afterwards?
Well, you know what? I want to watch the game in my living room, to be honest with you. I've been to the Super Bowl. It is crazy. Eagles fans, there are no crazier fans than Eagles fans. So I'd rather be in the comforts of my home. I'll be leaving New Orleans Sunday morning and in my living room by 2:00.
So you basically just going down to New Orleans just to party. You're skipping the game. You're going down there to party. You're going down there to mingle.
I'm going down there to do some business, okay? It's almost like, you know how business is done on a golf course. Right. This is going to be a party atmosphere because it's all the NFL executives and people that want to be in the know. All of those people will be, and it's in the afternoon. It's from 12:00 to 6 p.m. So you still have your evening. So it'll be a good time.
That sounds great. Congratulations again on that major step, Carlos. I remember we were first talking about, your dream and aspirations for this company, when you first really started getting it going back in 2020 during the pandemic. So right. It's always good to hear all of the major steps forward that you are taking, that you have taken up to this point and that you will be taking this coming weekend. But as I said, you are a renowned student of the game of football, and you are currently giving back to the game that you have such a passion for. What I want to know is, I know your love for the game is what inspired you to, to build this company, to build this business. What did you learn? Like, what would you say was one of the biggest lessons that you learned from the game of football?
Well, the teamwork and camaraderie, the meeting and pairing with people that don't look like you. They come from cultures that are not yours. The differences that come together to mold a football team. The life lessons that you learn through team sports, through football. It's 22 people on the field, 11 offense, 11 defense. That's a lot of people. And there's a lot of organization, construction that need to be done for that to actually work and be a cohesive unit. So, and it's just like life. You got to work through things, up, bad, good, right, wrong, left, right, all of that stuff you learn in football. So the life lessons in football, teamwork, camaraderie, working together, all of those things are what I really got from football. And I think that is what, my biggest issue in football was that the participation was dropping. It was dropping in the sport. And so that's why we started this company, because I came on as an investor. And then we saw that the company wasn't really moving. So we put together a group, me and my CEO, John Zaglinski, to take the company forward. And in doing that, we were able to help more student athletes. Our product is on the youth, high school, college, and professional league. The NFL is not wearing it as of yet. That's why we're going down to the Super Bowl. But the UFL, all of those 8 teams have been wearing our product for the last 2 years. 1 million heads in football. And we're only covering like 10 to 20,000 right now. So we got a lot of growth that we need to do and a lot of exposure that we need to get.
Yeah, I hear you. And looking at the passion that you have for football, what you've said you learned from football in terms of our basic qualities as a human, camaraderie, teamwork, the ability to work towards a goal. You spent time as a player in both San Diego. You also spent some time in Philly. Right. As you're going to be in some of that hype over this weekend, the Super Bowl, the Eagles versus the Chiefs this coming Sunday. I want to know what does it mean to you to be an Eagle? Like, according to the qualities that you just told me that you learned from the game of football, what does it mean to be an Eagle in your opinion?
Eagle is something that's, first of all, is proud to be. I'm one of less than 50 high school football players in Philadelphia to play in the same city professionally. That's very rare. So it's an honor. It's a privilege. The passion of the Eagles fans is what's the big deal with being an Eagle fan. They live and die and bleed green. That's the way they see their life. So to be part of that legacy, to be part of that camaraderie, to be around that type of passion for the game, it just makes you feel good that when people look at you, they go, wow, you were an Eagle. They look at you like, like something beyond, something that you aspire to be, but you almost don't think it's obtainable. So it's very rewarding and very fulfilling to be a former Eagle.
And being one of the few people that are from Philly and who get to be an Eagle, in their professional career, like you said, what is that sort of, because you see it from a perspective that most people don't. Like, what is the difference between the Philadelphia sports culture as an Eagle, especially being a Philly native?
Right. Well, what I just talked
to, as opposed to this Philly sports culture of as a Charger in San Diego.
Right. Well, what I just spoke about, the passion. The West Coast, it's nice. San Diego, average 72 degrees all year around. It's lovely. It's easygoing. And the fans are easygoing. I can go to the game, or I could go get on my boogie board. I could go to the game, or I could go climb the mountains. I can go to the game, or I can just go to the beach. You don't have those options in Philadelphia. It's football season. It's football season. So there's no shore. There's no mountains. There's no 72 degrees. You're lucky if you get above freezing. So the passion is built on your love of the game by your participation in going and viewing and seeing and feeling a part of what's going on. And things are limited. Let's be honest about it. Things are limited on the East Coast in the winter. How much do you want to go out? But if you're going out, it's going to be to see something that you love. It'll be the Philadelphia Eagles. It'll be going to a game, and that's about most of your winter month. Going to see the Eagles, watch the Eagles one way or another. So it's the passion of the East Coast, of the Philadelphia fan, that's different than the West Coast.
And, being a former Eagle, you're now witnessing a younger Eagles team make it to the Super Bowl. Well, you've witnessed it 3 times so far. 2017, got the dub against the Patriots. 2022, tough one to lose against the Chiefs. And now again this year. How does it feel not only being a former Eagle, but also being a Philly native, seeing your team make it back to the Super Bowl again this year?
Well, it's a sense of pride. You're proud to be a part of the legacy. In the 2017, they asked retired players to come and participate. So I would go down to the stadium, talk to fans about the rules, the regulations, about how things happen in the game, around the game. So it actually made you more of a part of it. Also, the year when we had the draft here, that was all part of it also. Going down, talking about the draft, how you experience it, what it meant to you in your life. So with being a Philly native, with being someone that went to high school here, where I actually wore green and white there also, Germantown High, it is just a sense of pride. You are just proud to be a part of this. You are proud to be a part of this deep history in this city. And you're proud to be part of, it's a tough image. They always say the Philly fans, they threw snowballs at Santa Claus. So they'll do whatever, So it's just a sense of pride to be a part and to be accepted that way.
And, that passion that you just talked about from Philly fans, it only increases this time of year. I mean, at an all-time high in the Super Bowl. And looking at where this team is now, looking at the matchup this year in the Super Bowl, there's a lot of different storylines wrapped up in this game, really on both teams. But looking at the Eagles, for example, like Saquon coming off the offseason he did, coming off the year he did, Jalen Hurts, looking for redemption. This defense looking phenomenal, new coordinators, what storyline on this Eagles team are you most excited to kind of see play out in this Super Bowl?
Well, I think, you mentioned offense, defense, Jalen Hurts, Carter, all of these players. And I think the most outstanding piece would be Zach Braun, and who I think should be Defensive Player of the Year. And I think if the Eagles go on and win the Super Bowl and defense will play a big part of it, he could be a big part of what happens in the game Sunday, either through just tackling, either through pass coverage, either through spying on the quarterback. He will be involved because he's been involved all year. He's had a great year through tackles for losses, big plays, all of that. So I think that would be huge. I think Jalen Hurts, coming off 2 years ago, playing a great game, had one mistake in the game. But I think he would like to put the critics to rest off also about him. He was responsible for 32 touchdowns throwing and running this year and only 5 interceptions. And I think that goes overlooked. I think people look at him and say, is he the player for 10 years? Is he the end-all, be-all quarterback? He wins games. Yes, I think he holds the ball too long sometimes, but you never know what he's reading, what he's seeing down the field. He might go first receiver, second receiver. It's done. Whoa, let me live to see another day and take this loss right now. So now we have second and long or third and long, but I'm more prepared for that.
And You brought up really both sides of the ball. Two great storylines. Couldn't agree with you more. In order for the Eagles to get it done on Sunday, who do you think needs to have a bigger day? Do you think it's going to be Kellen Moore and the offense that's going to have a bigger day, or do you think it'll come down more so to Vic Fangio and this defense?
I think it's Kellen Moore because I think, the Eagles offense has been building through the year and through the playoffs. They have another level of their offense that they have not even exposed yet. And to score 55 points 2 weeks ago and to not throw a pass over 30 yards, then you got a whole nother level. They got the deep ball. I think Kellen Moore needs to be aggressive. I think the offense needs to get out. I think they need to put the pressure on the Chiefs defense. And then so our defense, Eagles defense, can put the pressure on the Chiefs offense. And I think if the Eagles are aggressive, they get out front, they can do some other things on defense also, take some chances. But I think it'll put the pressure on the Chiefs overall.
And, looking at this offense, you had high praises for Jalen Hurts. I mean, what do you expect from him in this game specifically?
I expect a clean game is what the Eagles need. No to very few turnovers at all. As we saw 2 years ago, one turnover was one too many. But if they can play a clean game, no turnovers, if he could throw for probably around 180 to 220 in the game, I think they'll be fine. That'll be putting pressure on the D-backs. That'll keep the safeties at their depth, so that can create lanes for Saquon when they do run the ball. So I think if he throws in that range, it could go higher. He could throw for 300 yards also. But if he's moving in that direction, that means the offense is moving. The running game will be clicking also. I think that would put them in a good position.
And speaking of the run game, there's no doubt that the Eagles have arguably the best run game in the NFL this year. I mean, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley together combining for more rushing yards than any other quarterback running back duo, not just this year, but in the history of the game. Big part of that obviously is due to the amazing year, MVP caliber year that Saquon Barkley has had. He's currently less than 30 yards away from breaking Terrell Davis's rushing yard record, which includes the playoffs and the regular season. What I want to know from you, Los, is if Saquon Barkley does break this record, which he most likely will, but also gets the Super Bowl win, in your opinion, where does that rank Saquon Barkley among all-time running backs?
Well, longevity of a career has a lot to do with it. But with the year he's had, with the playoff picture that they've created already, I wish they had allowed him to get the 100 yards he needed at the end of the year to break the all-time rush record. I think it puts him in the top 10 automatically, arguably in the top 5 all-time rushers right now. But I think the longevity of his career and the continuing of stellar years I think he'll end his career in the top 5 all-time rushers and all-time backs. Because the year he's had, the career he's been having, even with crappy Giants teams, he still did well. Before he would end up getting hurt because just of, the game. But right. I think he'll be one of the all-time greats.
And aside from Saquon Barkley, because obviously he's going to have a big game, for the Eagles to make something shake on Sunday. I mean, the offense usually does start with Saquon setting the tone. But aside from Saquon Barkley, is there anyone else on this offense who you think is in for a big day on Sunday?
Well, I think A.J. Brown could have a huge game because he has that ability. He could catch a 6-yard pass and turn it into a 60. He could catch a 40-yard pass down the sideline and turn it into 70. I also think Smith has the opportunity to do that also. And I think they have a secret weapon in Dotson, who was a 48 catch, 1,000-yard receiver that they got from the Commanders that they have not been using. But they could put that kind of pressure on the secondary. But as a player, I would say A.J. Brown has the biggest upside.
Yeah, you bring up a good point because I mean this offense has been so dangerous in the sort of limited fashion that they have been operating under. We really haven't had a chance to see much of Dotson, with all the carries to Saquon, and then what's left going to, targets going to AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, so you bring up a good point. I mean, do you think under a different, maybe advanced scheme that Jahan Dotson could be more of a vital role in this offense?
Without a doubt. I mean, if you just go trips more frequently, it could happen. You could line him up in the backfield and waggle him out, and then you got trips or you got twins one way or another. I think it's a wrinkle. They threw in a couple tight end reverses the other week, which I think they just did to say, we'll do this, to get some thought in the Chiefs' minds. But I mean, Dodson could be a legitimate threat. He has good speed, good quickness. In those seams, he could get there. He could be, a hook, a curl, all of those little quick routes. I think he would do well on the same ones A.J. Brown does well on. But A.J. being a bigger player, I think he can even make a bigger splash play more frequently.
Okay. And looking at, we kind of analyzed this offense a little bit, but now looking at the defense, your bread and butter. We can start on Zach Bond. You had high praises for Zach Bond as your favorite storyline. Also, my favorite storyline as well. Him going from being a more of a special teams guy for the first 4 years of his career, now being a defensive player of the year candidate. He's going to be playing the biggest game of his life in the city that drafted him, that really didn't see that much of him, the way they kind of just let him go. Honestly, especially being a former defensive guy myself, I feel like we kind of just naturally gravitate to that story as well. But would you mind telling me, like, how rare is it in the NFL for a guy to make that sort of transition, that dramatic of a transition from being a special teams guy to now really being the best defensive player on the best defense in the NFL?
It's very, very rare, and it's not from ability, it's from opportunity. If you don't get the opportunity to do it, to play special teams, which I did a lot of myself, to play special teams, you have to be able to run. You have to be athletic. You have to be tough. You have to be willing to hit. So if you're doing all those things, that's the basis of the game. So if you did that for 4 years and you played your position, he not only did that for 4 years, went from an edge rusher to an inside linebacker, where when you play on the edge, you play with half your body. When you play in the middle, you play with both sides of your body. And you have to be just able to do what you need to do on both sides, not just with half your body. And it's not the ability to do it often, it's the opportunity if you're given. The fact that he was actually given this opportunity is amazing. And it's something to say for the coaches. Definitely something to say for the coaches.
And, do you think that, obviously he's a defensive player of the year candidate this year. You talked about, you think the award should go to him. Couldn't agree with you more. But from your expertise, in your opinion, why do you think Zach Bond deserves it over TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Patrick Surtain, Trey Hendrickson? We're talking about some of the biggest names in the NFL right now. Why do you think Bond, a guy who really just appeared on the scene this year, deserves it more over these bona fide all-pro, Pro Bowler guys?
I think because those are great names and great players, but they all didn't have great years. And I think what needs to be recognized is on the best defense this year in the NFL. He's the best player, and he's made major plays and influence on the defense. And as they go forward in the Super Bowl and the defense has to come up big again, look for him to be right in the middle of making the plays, if not making the plays. I think he should be rewarded because he is deserving. Changing positions, changing towns, being a leader, all of those things on a Super Bowl year, I say, yeah, it'll be an honor to him, but he'll be representing this defense also.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, to me, it's clear he deserves Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, I honestly feel like, kind of like what you said, I honestly feel like him not winning it this year would just be because of the name. You know, he's not a household name like the other four that are in the running. If he loses this year, it'll really just be name bias. And I want to read you a stat because I mean his stats are Defensive Player of the Year stats, like you said, especially compared to the other guys in the running. Luke Kuechly, you know, Hall of Fame caliber linebacker. The year he won Defensive Player of the Year in 2013 are really almost identical, if not a little below Zach Bond's stats this year. So Luke Kuechly in 2013 had 156 tackles. Zach Bond this year had 151. Luke Kuechly had 10 TFLs, tackle for losses, in 2013. Zach Bond this year has 11. Luke Kuechly had 65 stops. Zach Bond this year has 69. Luke Kuechly had 2 sacks. Zach Bond had 3.5. Luke Kuechly had 7 passes defended. Zach Bond had 4. Luke Kuechly had 4 interceptions. Zach Bond had 1. Luke Kuechly had 0 forced fumbles. Zach Bond, of course, had 5, playing a huge part in the Eagles actually leading the league as a defense in forced fumbles. You know, so it's really on par. The only difference is obviously, of course, one name is more known than the other.
Right. That's all it is. That's really what it is. I think he's right there. He should be there. And if not, I think it'll be a shame. I think it'll be a shame just to give it to a big name because that's what they are, a big name. But they didn't have great years, and he's had a great year. Yep. I'm gonna have to wrap up pretty soon.
Yeah. Just we can wrap it up after this question. You know, looking at Zach Bond, is there anyone else on this Eagles defense who you believe will have a major impact on Sunday, possibly the biggest impact on Sunday?
Jalen Carter, because he's playing close to the ball, he's playing in the line. He can take advantage of the right guard, I feel, for Kansas City, and he can put pressure and trouble Patrick Mahomes all day. So I think his get off, his ability, his strength could lead their Eagles defense and really push the pocket along with Smith and Davis also adding their abilities also. But I think Jalen Carter would be the man.
And, you know, as we wrap up here, what is your predicted result for Sunday? I mean, how do you see this game going? And then who do you think could possibly rise up to win that Super Bowl MVP award?
I think the Eagles get out on top. The Eagles are up by about 14 going into the fourth. I think Kansas City will start coming back. And I think the Eagles will win 30-24. And I think Jalen Hurts ends up being the MVP.
Okay. And one more question, and then I'll close it out, I promise. One more question. As you know, Myles Garrett has requested a trade and has publicly stated that he would like to play for the Eagles. The Eagles is one of his top trade destinations. What I want to know is if the Eagles have to give up Zach Bond or Jalen Carter, the two guys you just mentioned, or Nolan Smith, another guy who I know you like, Do you think that would be worth the Eagles pursuing a guy like Myles Garrett?
No, I don't agree with that. I would not give up stars on my team now. I would add a star to my team. I would give up a first rounder. I would give up a first rounder. Now I might give up another first rounder or a second rounder the year following, or I might give up a first in like 4 years. But I would not give up Carter, Smith, or Braun right now because they're the root of this defense right now. I would just add 2 with Myles Garrett.
All right. Well, y'all heard it here first from Carlos Bradley, the man himself, former NFL player, current vice president and chairman of SAFR Sports. Los, I appreciate you. That's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms, and I will be back later on with more Shameless Takes.